Assalamu alaikum and greetings. My name is Shua, and I am hosting my very special guest today, who is sitting all the way in London, and I am in Boston, Greater Boston area. And I welcome Dr. Amineh Hoti on this special. For me, this is a very special day. I have been following her, learning about her work. So, Dr. Hoti, please welcome and introduce yourself and let us know who you are, and then we can go from there.
Well, thank you very much, Shua. It's a pure pleasure to be here on your show. I've been watching some of your clips with great interest. So thank you for your voice. It's very important to have a female voice from South Asia. And that diversity in the West is so important. So I really appreciate that. And thank you for having me on your show. I'm a humble citizen of the world and of Pakistan, and wherever I am, I'm a humble citizen. But just a couple of things. I've just written a book on Pakistan, which is called Gems and Jewels: The Religions of Pakistan. So that took me a couple of years to research. I've done another doctoral study on northern Pakistan, and that was a University of Cambridge project and PhD thesis, which got published. And that was for the first time representing the female perspective in a very patriarchal context, which is the Pashtuns of northern Pakistan. So those are a couple of things I've done. There are a few more practical things I've done, like I'm really interested in working in curriculum and how peace education impacts our young people today, because there's so many differences, Shua, and we need to bridge that gap. So yes. Often through an interdisciplinary approach, we can bring different people together to begin to understand each other and respect each other. So I've done that at the University of Cambridge in South Asia, and I've been teaching like one-off in the Middle East, in America, at the American University and other places. You know that coming from a society which sometimes doesn't encourage the education or work of women, which I faced, I was very lucky to have a father who kept telling me, you've got to finish that PhD, you've got to find work, etc. So he's been a very great source of help and support. And I really appreciate that. And my family, of course, that's very important for people. And also recently I went to visit them in DC because there was a conference in Boston, which was encouraging the education of women. And in that conference, we had Peace Prize winners. And we had one lady from Afghanistan. We had Malala Yousafzai's father. And so I was in discussion with Ziauddin, who's Malala's father, from Swat. And that was a keynote introduction to the session. And I was quite interested to learn his perspective and his point of view. So that was a very interesting discussion.
Oh, wow, for that. What is the sitara and the star and the moon, the crescent?
Yes, well, that too is a symbol for the, in the Middle East and the Islamic concept and the East, there's this concept, the time is measured on the basis of the moon, the chand, sitara, the moon and the star.
The star.
And that is a sort of almost universal concept for human beings. Those are markers of time, of how we see ourselves in relation to the universe. So it's again, the whole concept of the words of Pakistan, which was made by and put together, penciled by Chaudhry Rehmat Ali, who came from Cambridge, from the UK, and who studied in Cambridge, and Allama Iqbal. All these people, these scholars who studied in the UK, they were thinking of how to make a homeland for a minority who had been going through a difficult period.
I think this, the way you have articulated it, to realize, because I am myself realizing it, but to say it this way, I think it should bring more humbleness that yes, you were a minority, and you should approach it in a way that so that, as you said, be empathetic to others and be inclusive of others, and that is the foundation. So it doesn't mean that if you are from 100,000 to 300,000, hypothetically, you are not a minority anymore that way. Just by the number doesn't mean that you're not. But yeah,
Uh,
that's very
that's a
nice.
really good point, Shua, because one of the points you raised was about humility.
Yes.
And this region, especially Pakistan, even India and Iran, the whole region
Hmm.
is dominated by Sufi saints.
Yes.
And a lot of their stories and books,
Hmm.
the core theme of it is to overcome your ego.
Mm.
And you only can overcome that through the journey of humility. And humility comes after a journey of pain and a difficult life, which we all face as human beings on earth.
It's
So
true.
that journey is that journey of humility to overcome your ego.
Thank you. So, Dr. Hoti, thank you for all these, you know, enlightening replies. There is a question which has many people wanted to ask about uh, things that you found while doing your research. When you wrote this book, obviously you traveled to Pakistan, and that's where this book is about, right? And you will explain that a little more. And I just saw that. I haven't had the chance yet to get it. I have already asked, and I will be hopefully getting it soon. It's a very huge, thick book. It's a beautiful book. Is it art? Is it information? Is it what? How do you describe this book? And of course, your journey through writing this book.
Well, each one of those questions is such a huge question. They're like oceans. We could sit here talking all day.
I
I can
know.
give you a little
Well,
glimpse.
however you want to say it
Yes,
briefly, say it however you feel
yes, sure.
comfortable.
I'll give
Yes.
you a little glimpse of the book.
Oh,
Here,
yes.
the book is called Gems and Jewels, The Religion of
Yes.
Pakistan.
Thank you.
And the
It's
foreword is
beautiful.
written by Prince Hassan of Jordan,
Yes.
very kindly. And
Mm.
he has said some beautiful words about the book because often it's a stereotype of a nation. We have
Mm.
certain ideas about certain nations that, it's a monolith or it's one type or it's dominated by one faith. But in this book, I came across many, many different perspectives. So there was, for example, in this book, we come across the Jains, the Zoroastrians, the Kalasha, a Jewish community, a Buddhist community in interior Sindh, the Baha'is, Sikhs, Christians, Hindus, and of course, Muslims. And even within the Muslim faith, Shua, I look at diverse perspectives. Like I told you, I looked at the work of Shah Abdul Latif Betai,
Mm-hmm.
because he's written this beautiful book, the Shah Jo Risalo. And that's another very big book. So
Mm.
some of the stories from the Shah Jo Risalo are like Soni Mahiwal, Sasi
Oh, okay.
Banu, all those romantic stories. But he describes it very well, Shiva. This is now 300 years ago in
Mm.
Pakistan. So Shah Abdul Latif Betai, is known as the Shakespeare of
Mm.
Pakistan or the
Right.
Shakespeare of Sindh.
Mm-hmm.
And some people locally say that his book is as important as a holy book. In fact, Shah Abdul Latif himself says that his words are not to be taken lightly. They are like the verses of the Holy Quran because
Mm-hmm.
they're gist. They're the nature or the gist of
Mm-hmm.
the ideas of inclusiveness, of compassion, of rahma, of mercy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and yet firmness on the path, which is the Sirat al-Mustaqim.
Mm-hmm.
And in the book, he quotes the Bible, he quotes the Hindu text, he quotes the Muslim text, etc. He quotes Rumi. He has Rumi's book in one hand, he has the Quran in another hand. So it's a very rich study. And everything is a metaphor. So Soni is a symbol of the believer.
Mm.
Mahiwal is a symbol of the goal or the end or even the holy site. So everything, it's not like you see it. It's not like
Mm.
Shakespeare described it, which is Romeo and Juliet's love story. Here,
Mm.
Shah Abdul Latif is far more spiritual, and it's a deeper journey. So these are riches, these are the gems. And that's why I call the book Gems and Jewels.
Gems. Okay.
Sure. That's why we have the
That's
title.
the name.
So
The
it's got many pictures. It's got many pictures. It's got many stories. It's not like your traditional orthodox academic book, but it draws from academia, and yet it's meant to capture the general audience so that Pakistanis can read and discover another side of themselves, a
I hope
diverse,
so.
and so that people abroad can also see Pakistan in a much more complex and not such a black and white way.
So it is about religions in Pakistan.
It's
What is
about
existing?
religious communities and their
Okay.
perspectives.
Okay. Oh, so
Yes.
there are like interviews, or there are
Yes. The
okay.
interviews, I've read books, I've summed those up. I've traveled, we've taken pictures, I used 7 photographers. And so it's
Wow.
very, for me, it was a very rich journey, Shua.
It is.
And then right at the end, Shua, I was diagnosed for cancer. And that was a bit of a shock for me because I was relatively young. And I was sitting with people who were much older when, I was having my chemotherapy and ilaj and all. And yet, while I was editing this book, Shua, it gave me so much strength to read the work of Shah Abdul Latif Bhittai, to read the work of Waris Shah, to read the work of Khwaja Muinuddin Chishti, all these inclusive people who didn't make a big deal about their faith, but made a big deal about humanity and about loving the creator, about loving their existence and the people around them, and being really inclusive and warm and kind and also firm. You see that the balance is being firm and yet kind. That balance is so difficult because some of the saints describe it like a thin hair. You're walking on that hair. It's so delicate, the balance. The sirat al-mustaqim, the path.
The middle path.
The middle path. The path of the scholars. It's a
So now that you said one reply, and there were so many questions coming up in that, but I just wanted to know that how many languages then do you know? Do you speak? How did you communicate with the communities?
Yes. Well, generally, Shua, as you know, South Asia is very rich and has got many languages. But luckily, people overall speak 2 main languages. So I mainly used Urdu, I used English, and I used Pashto. And the 3 together helped me communicate. But wherever there wasn't a communication, we had people who would translate. But that was in very rare cases. So even when I went to the Kalasha in the north, there were people who could speak very good Urdu and a bit of English, and also they were very articulate. Pakistanis are very intelligent, articulate people. If you really get down to the villages and the outer, the whole country, you'd see such a rich mosaic of voices and perspectives.
I think that's how they should be addressed, so they can get their confidence back, the way you just said it. I think, in my view, we are reaching this 75th birthday of our, nation. We are, we both are living abroad and have been, thankful to the adopted countries that we are living in. But of course, the roots, because my roots are also from Pakistan. The thing is that I feel that this time is very important for us to reflect upon and just realize who we are and why are we where we are, I guess. So,
well, that's a really good point, Shua. I want to come in there if you don't mind for a bit.
Yes, sure.
Because you have raised a really good point that we are at a stage where we are today. And we got there after so many years. And again, we need to have that mindset, like you said, which is much more complex. It's multi-layered. So on the one hand, you're global citizens. So you can live, for example, in America, in England, and contribute in a legal, in the best way possible to that society, taking knowledge, but also giving back where you can. For example, sometimes I help the homeless, and I love it because, it doesn't matter if they're white or brown or whatever color
in
they
England, you mean in London?
In England, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So, and sometimes I teach students, sometimes I'm guiding people. So I'm taking knowledge, but I'm also giving back. So I'm a student/teacher. So it's a constant give and take. But same in Pakistan, we have to have that vision, of being global citizens, being good local citizens, good national citizens on the second hand. So number one, the first layer is of being global citizens. So you're always contributing positively and seeing how you can. We're human, so we're going to make mistakes, which is okay. It's good to make mistakes because you learn from them. But as global citizens, you have a wider vision. Then local citizens is the second layer, where you are confident in your identity. You know why you are here. You know where you came from.
Yes.
You are confident. You know how to stand up for yourself and speak articulately. And yet be kind and positive to the people around you, the people who are less privileged in your own society. But also, number three is to be good neighbors. And remember, Shua, that is something very difficult. And that is something that is part of the Sunnah. Because all the religions talk about being good neighbors and, turning the other cheek and reaching out. And it's not easy, because I myself was thinking just yesterday as I was watering the garden, I was thinking, we have one neighbor who has become quite old and she can't walk. And the other neighbor who returned a little envelope to me, a little newspaper, because it was addressed to his address. But I realized how old he had become in about 2 decades. And I should also reach out to them. How do I ask them? Do they need any? Can I help in any way? I don't do that now, but I would like to do that. And that's the ideal. So there's the ideal. We have to get over our own problems in order to reach out to the other. And that's when we become useful citizens, religiously, nationally, internationally, in every way, when we can help someone else.
Yes, thank you. Any message on this very special time of this country for people?
How can you be valuable, not just to yourselves, but to the whole world? When you can be valuable to the world and say, look, for example, if you just simply, Shua, read this book.
Yes.
And in this book, you will see literally, so many examples of communities that speak up so passionately for being good global citizens. They speak up they have a story. They're inclusive of women. They're inclusive of minorities. So we need to, first of all, hear those voices, because there's so many communities there which cannot be, just wiped out or even seen as one block. If we say, oh, this is all, A, B, or C, or black and white, that's unfair to that complex land, which has 200, how many, what's the population? Millions.
220 or something like that.
Yes, and it's increasing by the day. So my point is, we need to hear that diversity, appreciate it, and tell the world, look, we have Shah Abdul Latif Bhetai. That's one of our treasures.
Yes.
We have Zee Ranja, Waris Shah Zee Ranja. That's another treasure. Then we have this beautiful diversity. That's another treasure. Then we have all these women's voices. There's so many women, Shua, in Pakistan who are doing fantastic work, yourself included, who are doing work for minorities, who are doing work for representing their own voices, young people's voices. There's so many youth. The youth of Pakistan is amazing and very inspiring, because although you say Sure that, you know, we live here and in the East and West. You're absolutely right. I've had the privilege of being in both societies.
Yes.
But in both societies as a learner and a teacher,
Yes.
in both societies. So I've been able to engage with students. In the UK, I was teaching at a very young age, Shua. I was teaching rabbis and priests and imams,
Oh, wow,
subjects
that's
that I
nice.
myself was learning about. So I myself was learning and also teaching as a director of a center, and learning and teaching at the same time. So that dynamic is very interesting. Similarly, in Pakistan, at A University, at FC, at NUST, there's so many wonderful universities there. I was learning and teaching, but every time I interacted with young people, they had so much to offer and they've got so much passion. So to lump everybody in one category and say, oh, this nation is A, B, C, is just simply unfair, because the whole world is diverse and Pakistan is very much part of the world. But
Yes.
we have to convey to the world, why are we useful? And
True.
we're useful because of, number one, the majority, what they have to offer. You know, I told you these are just some of the gems I've told you, but there's so much
True.
more. And then with the minorities, you've got this rich array of people. You know,
Yes.
you have, for example, from the Parsi community, you have Isfanyar Bhandara Saab, who sponsored the book and who is running a business, but he's also doing a lot of charity and all. Then you've got so many other examples. You've got people from the Sikh community who every Ramadan, they feed Muslims. Now, remember, they're reaching out across boundaries.
Yes.
And you've got people from every faith reaching out. So we've got those examples also.
True.
And in this day and age, when there's increased hatred and bigotry, those examples become something inspiring to us.
True. Very much. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Dr. Hoti. We can continue. I have so many questions. What do you teach now? How did you teach before? But for Pakistan, I think this passage was very important coming from you. And obviously, you are connected to Pakistan. So I hope we will get some comments. I would like to leave a link of your book and how they can get your book if they are interested. Anybody who listens to this message, I would highly encourage. And I would like to add one thing, that surprisingly, this book is much very, from today's standards, it's very affordable from the level and the caliber of the book, that the printing, because I had a little chance to look at it at, as you know, our friend's home, for to encourage people to check it out, because it's not very heavily priced, surprisingly. So we are not going to go into that detail yet, but please check it out, because I don't know how Dr. Hoti is keeping it so low. But it shows that it is a project for people to learn. Even if people share this book, this is another way to have a book. You don't have every not if you can't afford to have a book by itself, few people can share. This is my idea of not letting it go just because one person can have it, for some reason.
Yes. Well, sure, you'll be interested to know that as an author, I was allowed only a few sets of copies, about 50, 60 copies. And I contributed each one of my books, except for the draft ones that I have, to libraries. So I've given one to the University of Cambridge Library, one to the University of Oxford, LSE,
Oh,
SOAS, the Louvre in Paris,
yes.
and
Oh,
given one to the Peace Palace in The Hague.
okay.
So you've got these books available in libraries almost across the world.
Okay. Okay.
So we've got, the books mainly being donated to libraries from
Okay.
my
Yes. Yeah.
side.
That's a good place to have. Actually, that's the point, that what I was saying. But if
Yes,
somebody wants to own it, can we still order it?
of course, it can be
Okay.
ordered from Liberty, it can be picked up from Saeed Book Bank in Islamabad,
Islamabad.
from
Okay.
Liberty in Lahore, from Dolman Mall in Karachi.
Okay.
So
So
I
what
know
about in America?
in America too, Shua, that we will make sure that it's available in the libraries, number one, and number two, it is available to be, maybe you could have a talk with the bookshops to post it.
Okay.
And also I'm looking to put it on Amazon. So that's
Okay.
another option. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time for this. Well, what should be the word for Pakistan at this time? Can you suggest any?
Well, the word for Pakistan must be hope. We have to
Okay.
have hope, number one, sure. And
Yeah.
number two, we must be positive. When you say
Yes.
Pakistan, a lot of the times people say, oh, ye to Pakistan hai. I would say, ha, ye Pakistan hai. Be positive. You have the
Yes.
most amazing country with these gorgeous mountains, rivers, diverse people. You have
Yes.
languages. Rabbi's given you, a treasure.
Yes.
Enjoy it, appreciate it, support
Yes.
it, and make sure
Travel Pakistan.
travel,
Pakistani should
travel,
travel within
yes,
Pakistan. I think that's another
travel,
thing I
and
feel.
also give to the world. Give to the world.
Yes.
Constantly connect with the world.
Yes.
You're not living in a
Not alone.
bubble.
Yes.
You are connected.
True.
Like
True.
Rumi said, you're not a drop in the ocean. You are
Mm-hmm.
the ocean in the drop. But also
Ooh.
that drop is part of the wider ocean. It's the
Yes.
universe.
Yes. So everything is holistic and connected. Thank
Yes.
you.
And
Thank you so much.
each person, Shua, is an
Yes.
ambassador.
It's true.
Each
True.
person, whether you're living in America, you're living in the UK, you're living in, in Australia or in Pakistan or in India, in the Middle
Mm-hmm.
East, you're still an ambassador.
Yes.
So do your best to
True.
when you can and while you can, because this world is so short, Shua,
True.
After I got cancer, I realized, there are few moments we have. Who was it? Some famous person said, "Maang ke laaye the 4 din,
Mm.
आरज़ू में कट गए दो इंतजार में." Just a very
Yes.
short life.
Yes.
It's a ephemeral life. It's passing.
Yes. True. Now that you talked about life and its shortness, short life, when, well, everybody realizes about it at their own stage and age. It depends on the experience. It depends on, it just, I don't know when it comes to you, but it came to the realization, yes, this is a short life. And so how do you want to spend it? Right.
Mhm.
But do you think when you are young, any young person, whether it was you, and I have to be truthful about it, that I knew that we all are going to go, but I didn't realize it the way I realize it now. And I am not also relatively much older than what I'm comparing myself with.
You're absolutely right, sure. When you're young, you have that passion. You have all those hormones and the raging hormones, like they say, teenage raging hormones. So you want to change everything. You want to change the world. You want to, make this difference, that difference. You want to be the president, or, you have these big ambitions. But once you do go on the journey of life, you realize that one's got to contribute whatever you can in your own way, even if it's a small act like giving food to the birds or
Yes.
giving food to the homeless, or, remembering a neighbor who is not well and reaching out to them. So, all those little positive acts of being a good citizen is very important. And I
True.
think that's what we've got to remember with two key ideas. One is hope, and one is positivity. So, the message for Pakistanis all over the world is please be hopeful and please be positive. And once you have a mindset like that, that allows you to act upon it. So, you don't say, oh, ye to, the negative part, you say, let's do something positive. And you actually do. You follow that up.
Mhm.
Your thought is followed by your action.
Mhm.
And that
True.
really can change things. You can change things in 24 hours, let alone,
Yes.
you know,
Especially in our
so
region.
yes.
We are dynamic.
Especially Shua, you know, they say in the East, they have all these saints and all these baraka, blessings of the saints. So if you have so many saints in a place like that, surely
There is some baraka.
spiritual blessings. There's baraka,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
blessings and
Blessings.
goodness,
Yes. Yes.
goodness about.
All right. Thank you so much for your insights and replies and your thoughtful, life, I would say. This book, thank you for contributing this, your time, your efforts into this book. And we are very, I think we should cherish it that people like you who are contributing in different forms and shapes, we should be very thankful. I am really happy to come across your book because that's how I learned about you. And I am so grateful for you to be here and talking about Pakistan and about your journey. So we will continue our conversation later, but for now, thank you, Pakistan, and we wish you a happy anniversary. And I hope, as Dr. Hoti said, stay positive and stay hopeful.
Thank you very much. Bless you and Zindabad, Pakistan Zindabad.
Yes, Pakistan.